Good afternoon, students of grade 10. Today we are going to continue through our lesson energy, and this is our last topic in our lesson, nuclear energy. And we will only discuss about this in very brief, only that much which is covered by our syllabus. I will not go in detail through it. But before we go through nuclear energy, let's discuss about, let's remind you about the structure of an atom. Okay, an atom, according to Niels Bohr, as Niels Bohr proposed, an atom contains a nucleus, which is a compact mass present at the center of atom, and larger part of atom is made up of space. Okay, in that space, in particular orbit or in a fixed path, particular path, electrons revolve around the nucleus. So know that nucleus is the compact central mass of atom, and that nucleus contains protons and neutrons. And you know that protons are positively charged particle, whereas neutrons do not have charge. They are neutral. They do not have any charge. Now the confusing part is that if a nucleus contains protons, okay, then it is evident that being same charge, they repel each other, isn't it? This is the law of universe in which same charged particles repel each other and opposite charged particles attract each other, and they all being positively charged particles, okay, they repel each other. Okay, protons repel proton. Then how is it possible that number of protons, large amount of protons, are compacted through this very small space in nucleus? How is that possible? Well, one of the factor is neutron. Neutron help to stabilize the cluster of proton in the nucleus. Neutron help to stabilize cluster of proton in the nucleus, but still, and then it requires large amount of energy. Large amount of energy is required to stabilize the nucleus. Every atom has nucleus, and which requires large amount of energy to stabilize the nucleus. That means every single particle that you see around your world contains large amount of energy. Even our body, or this pen, this paper, everything is made up of atom, and they all contains nucleus, and inside the nucleus they all contains large numbers of protons held together in central nucleus, isn't it? That means all of the objects, every single object, they contain large amount of energy in their nucleus, which is called nuclear energy. Now know this, every object contains nuclear energy, but in most of the atoms, this energy is not available for us to be used. Okay, this energy is not available for us to be used. However, in case of certain unstable atoms, nucleus might break down, and the process is called fission, or nuclei might combine. The process is called fusion. See, I'm not talking about nucleus or atom of every single particle, every single object. I'm only talking about certain unstable atoms, the atoms whose nucleus is not stable. Means these atoms or this nucleus, if they are too large, they might break down, or if they are too small, they might combine with each other. Okay, there are two processes called nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. In these two processes, that nuclear energy might be released. Okay, nuclear energy is released, and this can be used to generate electricity. See, now this is the usable form of nuclear energy, harvesting of nuclear energy in usable form. Once again, see, every atom contains a nucleus. All atom contains a nucleus, and nucleus contains large number of positively charged particles called protons, which repel each other, but they are adjusted or they are stabilized in a very small space of nucleus, okay, of atom. And for this protons, cluster of protons to be stabilized, it requires number of neutrons and large amount of energy. Okay, and most of the atoms have already been stabilized through the process of formation of universe. Okay, and this energy is called nuclear energy. However, there are certain atoms which are not stable yet, which are not stabilized yet, and in case of such certain unstable atoms, nucleus might break down or nucleus might combine. If the nucleus have very large mass, then it might break down. If the nucleus have less mass, then to be stable, then they might combine with each other. Okay, and this process, these two processes, nuclear fission and nuclear fusion, releases the nuclear energy which can be utilized to generate electricity. Okay, now how to define nuclear energy? Let's define it. Take up your pen and notebook. The energy released during nuclear reaction. Now, when I say nuclear reaction, it means either nuclear fission or nuclear fusion. Okay, is called nuclear energy. It is very simple, as the energy released during nuclear reaction is called nuclear energy. Positively charged particles called protons are densely packed in nucleus that is stabilized by tremendous amount of energy which forms nuclear energy. Okay, this is the definition of nuclear energy. The energy released during nuclear reaction is called nuclear energy. Positively charged particles called protons are densely packed in nucleus that is stabilized by a tremendous amount of energy which forms nuclear energy. Now this next title is nuclear fuel. Now we have already discussed in our previous title, that previous page, that all atoms, most of the atoms are stable and they do not release nuclear energy, but some atoms are still unstable. Some atoms have unstable nucleus that can be broken down or that can be combined, and such atoms which can be utilized to release nuclear energy, or which can release nuclear energy and can be utilized to generate electricity, they are called nuclear fuel. And you might already have known some examples like uranium, plutonium, radium, curium, etc. Among them, uranium is the most common one. Okay, nuclear fuels are the radioactive elements that undergo nuclear reaction, releasing very high amount of heat energy, are called nuclear fuel. For example, uranium, plutonium, radium, curium, etc. Okay, now let's go to types of nuclear reaction. Okay, you already know there are two types of nuclear reaction. They are nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. Okay, nuclear fusion is the process in which two or more light nuclei fuse. Yes, a process in which two or more light nuclei fuse to form heavy nucleus. And in contrast to it, nuclear fission is the process in which large nucleus breaks down to form two or more light nuclei. Nuclei is the plural form of nucleus. See, nuclear fusion. If let's say there are two smaller atoms, if these two smaller atoms combine to form larger atom, then it is nuclear fusion. However, in contrast, if one large atom breaks down to form two smaller atoms, then it is nuclear fission reaction. Okay, now nuclear fusion reaction, it requires very high pressure and temperature. It takes place in only very high pressure and temperature, nuclear fusion. Whereas nuclear fission reaction, it does not require any specific pressure and temperature. It requires only our nuclear fission requires only bombardment. That means kinetic energy, yes, simple physical bombardment by a neutron. See, the reaction conditions are different. In case of nuclear fusion reaction, you need to provide very high pressure and temperature, but in case of nuclear fission reaction, it requires only bombardment by a neutron. That is why this process is yet not feasible to conduct in laboratory. So nuclear fusion, it is still not feasible to conduct in laboratory because it requires very high pressure and temperature, which might not be generated in laboratory. Plus it releases a very high or tremendous amount of energy that cannot be controlled. It releases tremendous amount of energy that cannot be controlled. Okay. Now, in contrast, nuclear fission, this process, and this process, nuclear fission, is very common on Earth. You know that nuclear bombs, nuclear missiles, nuclear power plants, they all utilize nuclear fission process because it only requires bombardment by a neutron. it does not require very high pressure and temperature, so it is feasible to conduct. Okay, it is feasible to conduct in laboratories. Okay, and it releases relatively small amount compared to nuclear fusion. It releases smaller amount of energy than fusion reaction. Okay, and one more thing is nuclear fusion reaction. It takes place on usually in stars. Okay, usually stars like sun. Okay, and there are other like Alpha Centauri and many other stars. Nuclear fusion reaction takes place. That's why stars produce very large amount of energy, and we discussed this in the title of solar energy as well. Whereas nuclear fission reaction, naturally it takes place at the core of planet. It takes place at the core of planet. Okay, so this is the differences between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion reaction. You see the first point, nuclear fusion. It is the process in which two or more light nuclei fuse to form a B nucleus. But nuclear fission is the process in which a large nucleus breaks down to form two or more light nuclei. And second one, the nuclear fusion, it requires very high pressure and temperature, whereas nuclear fission, it requires only bombardment by a neutron. So nuclear fusion reaction is yet not feasible to conduct in laboratories, whereas nuclear fission can easily be conducted in laboratories. And nuclear fusion reaction, it releases tremendous amount of energy, so much an amount of energy that yet cannot be controlled. But compared to nuclear fission reaction releases smaller amount of energy which can be controlled and utilized. And naturally, nuclear fusion reaction takes place in stars, whereas nuclear fission reaction takes place at the core of planet. That's why the core of planet or core of Earth is as hot as the surface of sun. And let's go to elaborate an example of nuclear fusion reaction and nuclear fission reaction. Okay, let's first go to an example of nuclear fusion reaction. We have already discussed this title in solar energy as well. How does sun produces energy? In that, okay, in sun, what is happening? This is hydrogen. Yes, one proton containing single proton. This is hydrogen. It is indicated by H11, where this 1 at subscript indicates atomic number and 1 at superscript indicates atomic weight. And two atoms of hydrogen, they combine, they fuse, but two positively charged particles cannot remain attached like this. So in this process, one of the proton loses the charge in the form of positron. Okay, one of the proton loses charge and becomes neutral. Okay, and that becomes a neutron. Okay, now it is called deuterium, or its atomic number hydrogen with atomic number 1 but atomic weight 2. Say this is a fusion process. Two light nucleus is combining to form one heavier nucleus. This nucleus, they have atomic mass of 1 AMU only, but this nucleus, it has atomic mass of 2 AMU. In second step, one atom of deuterium, combines with an atom of hydrogen, and this simple combination produces an atom with 2 protons and 1 neutron. 2 protons and 1 neutron. And if an atom has 2 protons, then its atomic number would be 2, and atomic number to an atom having 2 protons, element having 2 protons in its atom, is known as helium. Now it becomes a helium, and whose atomic number is only 3. So it is also called light helium. Now you can see this is also a combination process. So it is also an example of nuclear fusion reaction. What is happening here? The atom, the nucleus having atomic weight 2 and the nucleus having atomic weight 1. They combine to form a nucleus having atomic weight 3. This is called light helium. Okay, and third step, two atoms of light helium, they collide with each other. Okay, two atoms of light helium, they collide with each other, and in this process one of the helium atom acquires neutron from another helium atom. One of the helium atom acquires neutron from another helium atom, and it forms helium, proper helium. Okay, so its atomic number is 2 and now atomic number is 4. And another helium atom, since it has lost neutron, the protons cannot stay together, they separate in the form of hydrogen. See, in this process, once again you can see by collision of two atoms having atomic mass 3, it forms one atom having atomic mass 4. So this step is combination of both nuclear fusion and fission. Okay, what's happening? One of the atom is breaking down and then it is combining with another atom. Okay, formation of proper helium is nuclear fusion, but it is, you can say it is nuclear fission, and yet this step also releases tremendous amount of energy. So nuclear fusion reaction releases tremendous amount of energy in each step. If you can continue through this reaction, the same fusion reaction also produces carbon, nitrogen, oxygen and other elements as well. It will go on combining. Okay, it does not stop right here, but our syllabus covers only up to here, so I'm going to discuss it only up to here. Okay, now another let's discuss about nuclear fission reaction. Fission means breakdown. Okay, fission means breakdown, to break down. Let's take an example, the most common example of uranium. Okay, uranium contains 92 protons. Okay, and its atomic weight is 235. That means subtract 235 from 92, what you get? 5 minus 2, 3, 13 minus 9, 4, over 1, 143. That means uranium contains 92 protons and 143 neutrons. You see, the ratio of proton to neutron is very large. In such case, okay, let's say ratio of proton to neutron is equals to, we can calculate it. Okay, the ratio is found to be 0.643 is to 1. That means for every 1 neutron there is 0.643 protons. Now when a neutron bombards it, now this atom becomes unstable. Okay, because the ratio gets disturbed. Okay, because of that those 143 neutrons, 92 protons were stabilized, but when one neutron bombards it, it will have 144 neutrons, which disturb the ratio and the balance or stabilization of the nucleus. It causes breaking down of this nucleus. Out of 92 protons, 36 protons form a group and 56 proton forms another group. Okay, now the group of 36 proton, the atom which contains 36 proton, it is known as barium, and the atom which contains 56 proton, 36 proton, it is called krypton, and the atom having 56 proton is called barium. So single nucleus of a single atom of uranium breaks down to form two atoms of krypton and barium. See, this is heavy nucleus whose has 92 protons, but these two nucleus are lighter nucleus, having one of them having 36 proton and another one having 56 proton. Now atomic weight of krypton is 89 and atomic weight of barium is 104. 44. This means the krypton has how many neutrons? Let's calculate. 89 minus 36, 9 minus 6, 3, 8 minus 3, 5. Okay, now krypton has 36 protons and 53 neutrons, whereas barium has 56 protons and neutrons. Let's calculate. 144 minus 56, 14 minus 6, 8. This becomes 3, 5, 13, 8, 0. Okay, 56 protons and 88 neutrons. Okay, now let's calculate their ratio. P is to N. For krypton, it is 36 divided by 53. Okay, 0.67. And here 56 divided by 88, again 0.63. Okay, did you notice a ratio of proton to neutron? Okay, it says that the nucleus becomes stable at certain ratio. Yes. Now that krypton and bariums are already formed, what we can see that number of protons are balanced. Okay, 36 plus 56 is equals to 92, but number of neutrons are not balanced. Okay, in input side you can see that there are 236 neutron. It has 144 neutrons. Okay, the overall atomic weight is 236. But here if you add these two numbers, you only get 233. 9 plus 4, 13, carry over 1. 8 plus 4, 12, plus 1, 13, carry over 1, 2. 233. So what number of neutrons is not balanced? It is 3. Okay, it is 3. 3 neutrons are not balanced, which are released. And these 3 neutrons now further bombard 3 other atoms of uranium, 3 other nucleus of uranium, and the reaction continues. It goes on. Okay, so it is like 1 neutron bombards 1 uranium atom, it releases 3 neutrons, and these 3 neutrons again bombard 1 more uranium atom. Okay, and each of them will release 3 more neutrons. Okay? In this way, in each cycle, more and more neutrons are released in multiple of 3. In each cycle, in multiple of 3 neutrons are released, and with each cycle, it generates more and more energy. Okay? So this reaction represents the nuclear fusion, so nuclear fission reaction, where you can see uranium having 92 proton and 143 neutrons. It breaks down into 2 groups. Okay, one of the group contains 36 proton and 53 neutrons, and another group contains 56 proton and 88 neutrons, and it also releases 3 more neutrons. Okay, so this is the nuclear fission reaction. Now nuclear fission reaction is commonly used in generation of in generation of electrical energy in nuclear power plants. Now let's study about the diagram. Okay, you can see here is my pen. Okay, this one is the heating chamber. Sorry, a nuclear reactor. This one is a nuclear reactor. Okay, and this is heat exchanger, and these are control rods. Okay, and this chamber, it contains uranium and molten sodium, and when uranium undergoes the reaction, nuclear fission reaction, it releases large amount of heat energy, and that heat energy is passed through this loop. Okay, and this loop is dipped in water, and because of this heat energy in this loop, that heat energy is transferred to water, and water vaporizes, forming steam, and that steam is passed through a pipe, as a secondary loop, through at very high pressure, and that high pressurized steam rotates a turbine. Okay, and the turbine operates a generator, and generator produces electricity, and this steam, once it has operated turbine, this steam is passed through condenser, and this condenser, you can see here cold water is passed through this pipe, and it passes through the loop, and it it absorbs heat energy from the steam, and it exits the condenser as warm water, and the cooled water is pumped. This is a pump, electric pump. The cooled water is once again pumped through the electric pump into the steamer, where it again receives heat energy from this loop and again vaporized. Okay, in this way the cycle continues. And here nuclear energy, heat energy generated by nuclear fission reaction, is utilized to vaporize water in the steamer. Okay, I'll give you some time to copy the image. Okay, the best idea would be take a screenshot or pause the video and take a screenshot of this frame, and then copy at your own leisure time. Okay, 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 let's continue. So nuclear power plant, as you know, is highly advantageous. What are the reasons? Okay, advantages of nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plant is highly advantageous, especially thermal power plant, okay, which utilizes coal. Thermal power plant utilizes coal to generate electricity. Okay, uses coal to generate electricity. Whereas nuclear power plant, it uses uranium to generate electricity. Okay, when these two technologies are compared, you see that thermal power plant, it causes pollution by emitting CO2 or greenhouse gases. Okay, thermal power plant, it causes environmental pollution by emitting greenhouse gases. However, nuclear power plant, it does not cause any pollution. It does not release any harmful gases except water vapor. It only releases water vapor. Otherwise, it does not release any harmful gases, and it does not causes any pollution. And another one is thermal power plant, it generates relatively small amount of electricity. Generates smaller amount of electricity. However, a nuclear power plant, it generates large amounts of electricity. A larger amount of electricity. Now think of it. If USA does not produce electricity by using nuclear power plant, then half of the time the US citizens would be facing blackout. Okay, if US have to rely only on thermal power plant, then half of the time they might have to face blackout. As of now, around 15% of electricity is generated by using nuclear power plant. Okay. And next one is, it requires regular feed. It requires regular feed. Okay, that means every day you need to add coal. You need to feed coal in thermal power plant. Okay, however, in nuclear power plant, it requires less or occasional feed. Once you feed uranium in nuclear power plant, it can generate electricity for almost a year. Okay, it can generate electricity for almost a year, throughout a year, once you supply or once you feed enriched uranium in nuclear power plant. But in thermal power plant, you need to feed coal into it regularly, on regular basis. So in long term, energy is cheaper. Okay, and here in long term, energy is expensive. Okay, if we calculate in long term perspective, then electricity produced by nuclear power plant is cheaper than electricity produced by thermal power plant. Okay, these are the advantages of nuclear power plant, but there are certain disadvantages as well. And when I say disadvantage, it is not small disadvantage but serious disadvantages that requires global attention and control. Okay, and one of the most important disadvantages is radiation pollution. The radiation released by nuclear power plant, these are very dangerous radiation because they releases ionizing radiation. Okay, ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiations, when they come in contact to tissues, they can readily ionize water molecules in our tissue, and ionized water molecules are very destructive in nature. They start to destroy the structure of our DNA, and it can cause mutation, and because of mutation most of the individual cannot survive, and uncontrolled growth of cell is also referred as cancer. So it generally causes mutation and cancer, tumor, etc. And these are very serious damaging, very serious disadvantages of nuclear power plant. And because of same reason, it can also be used as biological weapon. Not just that, some countries are known, or some nuclear power plants were known to release their radiation into lake or ocean, which caused serious mutation in the aquatic animals and questioned the survival of these aquatic animals. Okay, and second big challenge is use as a weapon. Well, nuclear weapons such as atom bombs, a nuclear missile, they are deadly weapons which can be used to level down a city. Okay, these are maybe the most deadly weapon on earth right as of present day. Okay, and as you know, during Second World War, dropping of atom bomb by USA on two cities of Japan, as Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ended the World War. Okay, now see how powerful this weapon could be. It releases tremendous amount of heat energy as well as radiation energy. Those who are exposed to heat energy, they definitely are died on the spot due to high temperature. And even those who escape the heat energy are constantly being ravaged by the ionizing radiations released by weapon. And that effect remains for a very long time period. Okay, so they can be used as weapon for mass destruction. Okay, for mass destruction, and it is also called Armageddon, which is very serious threat for the world. Say most of the world nations in the world now possess nuclear missile or atom bombs. Okay, if they all are to go in an all-out war, if they all are to release the atom bomb and nuclear missile they have, it might totally destroy all the civilization on the earth. Not just civilization, all the life form on the earth might be destroyed by it. So it must be checked, and for that international bodies international monitoring bodies such as United Nations, okay, or G8 nations, they have to act as monitoring bodies. Okay, they have to coordinate through the nations, through their international problems, okay, to prevent use of nuclear missiles or atom bombs as weapon. Okay, so this much for today's class. Tomorrow we'll start new lesson, and today I'll post the exercise from this lesson in your messenger group. Please check there. Thank you, class.